You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Osmanski, a one-timer deflected side of the goal. Alexandrov scores!
Hosted by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney.
And this episode number 8 of the Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast is brought to you by our good friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield, and their new location in Amherst, your go-to pregame spot for all Thunderbirds games. Alongside Matt Baker, I am your host, Steve Forney. Well, we're both hosts, I guess. It's a creature of habits. I went into radio mode there for a second. Matt, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. You're the host, Steve. The host with the most. That's it.
Well, hopefully not today. People notice I sound terrible. I hope I didn't sound too bad on Saturday, but I got a couple sick kids, and Saturday rolled around, and I feel brutal. But that's all right. We're gonna get through it. Everybody good at your house?
Yeah. I mean, I know this is kind of that time, and the weather surely doesn't help with it being 80 degrees over the weekend and now cold and rainy here in Western Mass. But yeah, we're all good here. We've got my youngest, Jake's birthday coming up tomorrow, actually. Well, we're recording here the night before Halloween, so his birthday is on Halloween. So yeah, we're all good here. We're all good. As good as can be.
Despite what you think, Jake is not a nightmare. So get that Halloween birthday, but he's actually still a pretty good kid. So that's awesome.
He's pretty good. He's our Jake O'Lantern, that's for sure.
Oh, I like that. So
yeah.
Obviously a much different feel to this episode than the last one, coming off the Thunderbirds winning a 3-3.
Yeah.
We're going to get into a lot of that stuff. We do have some things sort of just around the NHL, the AHL, the world actually in this episode. And I guess we'll start with, I think it's important as a hockey podcast to just mention the situation that happened with Adam Johnson out there in England. Just a tragic story. You know, guy gets a skate up high, slashed in the neck. Didn't end well for him. And we obviously we send our condolences to his family and, you know, all of his teammates that he's had over the years. You know, I remember him playing in Wilkes-Barre and Lehigh Valley. And it's just, it's tragic. I feel bad for him, but not even just him. I feel bad for Matthew Petgrave, who was the guy who did it. And, you know, it's just, it sucks the world we're living in where people are giving this guy such a hard time.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm not on Twitter or X, whatever you call it nowadays. But I've read some articles about the mistreatment of him, and, you know, that I'll just say this. You know, there's no place for that, in my opinion, in anything. Nobody wanted for this tragedy to happen, and he's mourning just the same as everybody else. You know, I could only imagine. I had a friend in high school who was a complete accident, but had a car accident that ended in someone's death, and just how it impacted his life. You know, I could not fathom what Matthew Petgrave is going through. From everything, I haven't seen the video. I don't really want to, but from what I understand, it was kind of your run-of-the-mill play, where he just kind of lost his balance and his skate went up high and caught Adam in the neck. You know, it's a tragedy. Nobody meant for this to happen, and you know, anyone calling for Matthew Petgrave, you know, calling him a murderer or things like that, there's just no room for that, no need for that. And I'm glad Springfield fans are above that and can kind of be better than that. So that's good.
Yeah.
Just a tragedy.
It's this world, this polarizing world we live in, where I don't know if there's been anything in the news that everyone has agreed on.
Yeah.
And if we can't agree on this, we can't agree on anything.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And, you know, I always go back to Espen Knutson, and I'll never forget this guy's name because he was the player who I believe was on Columbus. It took a shot. It deflected off a stick, went into the crowd, hit a girl, and she died. And Espen Knudsen retired.
Yeah.
That's how, and he was in his 20s. I mean, that's how it impacted him. That's of course, that's why we have the nets now behind the goals. But, you know, I can't imagine being on that end of it either. And I feel for that guy and his family as well. And it's just, it's a sad situation. I do think these kind of things, thankfully, are relatively rare. And we, in fact, going into the game Saturday and Sunday, there were some Providence players that started wearing neck guards.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, again, it's just like everything in life, like do whatever you feel comfortable doing. I would, and I don't mean to seem like insensitive, but I don't think that this should be something that's mandated across the league. This has happened so infrequently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if this was an epidemic that was happening once every 2 years, once every year, then you need to address it. I think this is just sort of one of those freak things that happens. And I don't think everybody needs to sort of go in the opposite mode and demand that neck guards are now suddenly mandatory and things like that. But I think that players should do what they feel comfortable doing.
I agree with you. I mean, are they talking about neck guards? And I couldn't tell. I watched both the Providence games on AHL TV. Were they like soft, or were they hard plastic, or was it something that covered how? Or was it just like a headband basically that went around their neck?
Kind of, yeah. From the looks of it, it was basically like a shirt with a turtleneck. And so the turtleneck kind of came up to here, and it was a little bit thicker. And it reminded me of Thomas Plekanec, who played for the Canadiens, who just always had a turtleneck on.
Mm-hmm.
It came up to about here. So it was sort of more of that. It wasn't this big bulky, thing.
Okay.
But I know that in all sports they've made adjustments based on safety. And again, this situation isn't like concussions in the NFL where you get one or two of them a week. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, I tend to agree with you. I do feel like, and maybe any players that listen, I mean, I think you make the decision that you're more comfortable with, and I would hope that you would make it for yourself and not worry about necessarily, well, is this guy going to think I'm soft if I wear a neck guard? I mean, if you think if in the back of your mind now you are worried about this, if it hinders your play, then wear it. And so I kind of agree with you. I don't necessarily think it needs to be mandated. It is. It's what the only other time I can ever think of this happening. And the name escapes me at the moment, but like the medical staff was able to get there in time and kind of grab the towel and kind of close it up. They actually had their finger in the guy's neck, and saved his life. So I don't think it needs to be something where we need to mandate equipment changes or mandate rules or limit, a skate goes up high, an automatic whistle. I don't think we necessarily need things like that. But I would encourage any player, if you're worried about it, if it's in the back of your mind, clearly, and similar thing to the freak accident with DeMar Hamlin last year in the NFL.
Right.
The 1 in a million injury that could happen. It's tragic. It's sad. And if more players want to wear their neck guards, go for it.
Now, I will say, if you were running a peewees, right? If you're talking about like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids and you wanted to mandate that, I can recognize and support, because again, those are way more amateur, way more young.
Sure.
Kids are down on the ice more, kids are up in the air more. There's just a lot, but when it comes to the pros, who are for the most part in control of their own bodies, I would sort of leave it up to them. I got to be honest, I'm still that kind of guy when I see a fight, especially live, and I'm up close and a guy hits the ice and he puts his bare hands on the ice, and now there's two linesmen and another guy skating around. I'm just waiting for a finger to get sawed
Fingers,
off.
right.
And thank goodness it never does, but I'm always really like, please don't step on that guy's hand. Like, it's just, I don't know, it like instinctively freaks me out. So, hey, it's a dangerous game. You got a hard puck and sharp sticks and sharp blades, and
You're skating on knives. I mean, that's really what you're
yep,
doing. You got knives on your feet. So,
and
you
the
know,
sharper the better. So
yeah.
but terrible story, and we obviously feel like we said for the teammates, the family, the friends of Adam Johnson, that just it absolutely sucks. And now I think we can sort of move past that a little bit to happier stuff because there's so much fun stuff going on. We want to congratulate our buddy Joel Hofer. Got his
Yep.
first shutout, 27 saves, and a 3-1 win over the Calgary Flames, who are kind of a hot mess. I expected bigger things from Calgary. They're kind of a hot mess. But congratulations to Joel Hofer on that milestone.
Yeah, that's great. And again, not surprising to see. I mean, he played really well in his spot starts last year when he was called up for that week or so. He played really well. Happy for him. And expect big things. I think I'm going to be paying attention to that because Binnington he's a good goalie, but he's older in the twilight of his career, trending downward. And Hofer is the young buck. So I think he continues to put out these strong performances. I think that's great for him. It's great for the Blues. And I think it allows us, at least for this year, to breathe a sigh of like, maybe we can keep our goalies here in Springfield, because we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I think they're both playing really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I believe, don't quote me, but I believe he was the youngest Blues goalie to get a shutout in team history. I don't know if I made that up or if I read that somewhere, but he's in the whatever. He's definitely one of the youngest goalies in Blues history to record a shutout. So
good for him.
Yeah, definitely a tip of the hat to him. As we look at our own roster, I was personally surprised to see Dylan Coughlin back with Springfield this weekend. Carolina's Brett Pesce just underwent surgery as a defenseman. He's out for 2 to 4 weeks, and I thought to myself, well, we're not going to see Coughlin again for a while. So I was kind of shocked to see him in the lineup on Saturday. And then, of course, on Sunday, he was on the roster Saturday, didn't play, but he played Sunday in Providence, got the game-winning goal. So it's nice to see him back. And we got to tip our hat to our guy, Adam Gaudette. Leads the league in goals. First Thunderbirds player to have goals in 7 straight games. We've been talking about it for weeks now, but this guy is just absolutely on a mission.
He's on a tear. I remember last year when he was part of that trade. I believe it was the O'Reilly trade.
Yep.
That brought Gaudette here from the Marlies. And at the time, I mean, I don't follow the Marlies. I didn't know who Adam Gaudette was, but now he's a T-Bird, and I'm going to, read up a little about him. And, 20 goal scorer at the time when he was brought over. And I'll be honest, I was expecting a little bit more offense from him. But again, that was just the optimistic fan, not really thinking about it too hard. Just, yeah, man, score some goals, help out Furk, help out Highmore. And it took him a while. But the chemistry on that Pekka line with Gaudette, Pekka, and Walker it's just awesome to watch. It's fun. I mean, it's got to be fun from your vantage point too. They're just they have on ice chemistry like they've been playing with each other for 2+ years. So good for him. Keep it up, and I hope he never gets a haircut. That's for sure.
The hair is fantastic.
Yes, and that makes it. Every goal makes it even better.
And you're so right, because I do think that I from the little I knew about him, like you, I just knew he was kind of a streaky player. Like once he gets hot, he'll get hot. If he does get cold, he might get cold. You got to kind of ride him out. And it did take him a little while to get going last year. But I mean, you're right. That goal on Saturday night, I mean, I'm in one of those positions to where I saw that seed go right off the stick, right over the blocker to that top corner. And it was just one of those ones that basically go, whoa, like, the real time was just fantastic. So he's got this swagger. I feel like when he first came here, he was trying to figure out his role and where to fit in. And
sure,
I don't want to say he was skittish. It's just this is like a whole different player. He's just walking around with some big shoulders, like he runs the joint.
Do you think? And we'll talk about this too in a little bit. But in hindsight now, I think back to when we were talking with Tommy last week and his comments on, they just have to mesh and you have to be patient. You have to give it time. And I think as I'm watching Adam Gaudette through the first, half a month of the season, I'm kind of like, all right, yeah, Tommy, you were right. Like it needed to mesh. It needed to click. It needed to find the right chemistry. They needed to, have off ice time together to get to know how each other's thinking. I'm talking, Gaudette and Pekka. And it matters. And now he's got the confidence. He's got the fans 110% behind him. And I mean, he's dominating. He's dominating. Yeah. And
Well,
it makes me a little nervous too with the Blues offensive struggles. Because I think they're in the bottom quarter of the NHL now with 1.8 goals a game, 1.82 something goals a game.
Ew.
And I'm like, oh, Adam, cool off for a little bit, just so let the Blues get hot, and then you get hot again.
Slide under the radar, pal. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't make too much of a splash, but good for him. I say that jokingly. Good for him. Keep it up, and good things will come for him.
Yeah, and you talk about chemistry. That's the only line I think that hasn't changed all year. I mean, we saw Will Bitten get hurt. We see Sam Bitten coming in and out of the lineup. Drew Callen in and out of the lineup. Mm-hmm. That line has been intact for whatever now, 7 games or 8 games.
Yeah, so they have from game one. And from game one, they were the entire offense. I mean, it's nice now. You've got the second line. You've got my double McLaughlin line.
The double McLaughlin. I love that.
The double McLaughlin, hold the milk. And they're playing inspired. They're playing. They to me are almost like the fuel right now to this Thunderbirds lineup. I think you have, the top line is getting all these points. Then you've got the second line coming out, and McGing. We'll talk about this too. Like his hustle, his diving for pucks, knocking them into the neutral zone, getting them crashing the net, back check, forecheck. McGing's all over the place. I think he's bringing great energy, and I think that seeps all the way down the lineup. The next line coming out does not want to get outplayed by them, so they're stepping their game up, and I think that's what we saw this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's been really something to watch. It's funny though. This isn't the first time, because I remember, I'm looking it up here. I think it was 2016. The Thunderbirds had McKenna, they had Mackenzie Weegar, they had Matt McKenzie, they had Ian McCoshen and Dylan McElrath.
Oh, wow.
And then they had Greg McKegg. So you talk about, for all of our Irish friends out there. Oh, and Jared McCann. So you want to talk about having some, some mix in the lineup. That's the one that I remember just having the most Mick guys with a Mick in their name. And this one has Mackenzie McEachran. He's a double.
Yeah.
So it is funny how the M's, big M, little C's keep finding their way into the Springfield roster. But I do love that nickname, and might as well just get right into it. I think the biggest takeaway from me this weekend was the production and the play from the bottom 3 forward lines. And I think last week we were kind of talking about how it was one line that was really dominating. And I loved what I saw from Hugh McGing, and I loved what I saw from that second line. The fourth line, to me, grinded their rear ends off. I thought every time they were on the ice, they were a pain to play against. And that to me was really something that I think is going to carry them. Again, you can't just be a one-line team, but when you have at least 3 lines that are all contributing, boy, that goes a long way.
I agree. And I think that's the important part. Like what I'm watching, you're seeing the top line is sort of out there. They're playing free. They're playing with talent. They're playing fast. And then you see those other lines, and when there's no break, from my vantage point, and I wasn't able to get to the Thunderdome on Saturday, so I was watching the 3 games on AHL TV, but you just saw hustle play after hustle play. You saw dives. You saw Nathan Walker diving. I think that was actually on Saturdays for one of their empty nets. But you see him dive to hit the puck into the neutral zone, and then there's a race for it. You see McGing all over. You see hustle. And when you have that fourth line out there, and they're just grinding, that's has to be sort of, I don't want to say defeating, because they're all professionals out there, but it has to be sort of somewhat defeating, for lack of a better term, defeating when you're going up against a fourth line, and it's like, oh, we can't catch a break here almost. And I think that's what, to me, that is the spirit of Springfield hockey too, It's that grit. It's that grind. It's that we're down 1-0 in the third. We'll tie it up. Oh, quick goal. We're down 2-1. Don't worry about it. We got it. Oh, we got, and we'll talk about that from the Sunday game. But that's my big takeaway from the weekend. I think going into Hartford Friday night, playing against a Hartford team that kind of has had our number as of late, and quite frankly hasn't lost, really has had the AHL's number really for a while. They haven't lost, and you go in there and you just dominate them. I mean, you really do. Full 4 goals, I think, against Deming. Great goaltending. Yeah, and the empty netter, right? Great goaltending by Z, and that really set the tone. I think I think I was talking to our buddy Al, just sending him messages back and forth, and he was telling me how much that you could just tell 2 weekends ago how pissed off our guys were after an 0-3 weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I give the coaching staff a lot of credit. They pushed the right buttons. They needed to push. And I think they really just came out on fire Friday. And I think that just set the tone for the whole weekend.
Yeah. And I do want to get to that game. Something that I just remembered that you talk about how this team can get it and this coaching staff gets it. And you look at that game Saturday, 2 goals for Adam Gaudette, Abramov on the score sheet, Nathan Walker with 3 points, a goal and an assist, Matthew Pekka, a goal and 2 assists. And the player of the game, according to the players, was Kian Washkruk.
Yeah.
And they kind of, the team goes in and they pick their player of the game, and he gets this sweet looking, big, huge, massive hat. But the team, all these players had all these points, and they thought that the fourth line grinder was the player of the night. That shows me that they're not about themselves in the individual play, but that they recognize and know that grinding and playing hard, being hard to play against and hard-nosed and tough is what this league is all about. That's how you win games. And to give that to the fourth line guy who had a bunch of block shots, was in people's faces, played hard, that to me was awesome. So, tip of the hat to him, but tip of the hat to the team for recognizing that. I think that goes such a long way.
I agree with you. I'm with you. And think about the message. We talked about this. We've got the Zacks. We've got Leo Loof. This is still a young team. And the message that you're sending to these young guys are, you don't need to pad the stats. You need to play hockey the right way. You need to grind. You need to block your shots. You need to make the pass when necessary. You need to, and those things will come with the young guys, but I think it sends the right message. And so I agree with you. From Friday night, I think Pekka, his 100th goal as a T-Bird.
100 points. Yeah. And I knew they said he was the quickest to do it. I didn't realize it was only 112 games. 100 points in 112 games. That's awesome. I mean, that's legit.
Yeah. I mean, and he's a guy who's, coming right out of college, making that national championship run with your Bobcats.
That's right.
I'm glad he clearly has the mindset to be a leader in the AHL. We've talked about this a little bit, sort of that attitude of, I want to play in the NHL. And I think he probably did have those, he still does have those aspirations. Who wouldn't? But, he is a game changer at every level. He plays 200 feet. And it's just good to see. It's great to see. It's exciting. It's just,
and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him get, I don't know, 6-7 games with St. Louis this year.
Yep.
I mean, Will Bitton got some last year, and Alexandrov got some last year, and if they need some help down the middle, like you just said, what you're getting with this kid. He's going to come in, work his tail off, win some faceoffs, try to set up other guys. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him get a handful of games. It might be a terrible timing for us, but that's not what it's about. I'd love to see him get up there and get some games in a St. Louis sweater. So,
agreed.
we'll see. And they got goals in that game from Abramov, McEachran. I mean, those are the guys we're talking about and need to step up. We've been talking about Abramov before the season even started. 37 saves for Zarenko. I just thought, again, the goaltending was excellent. I mean, they gave up 6 goals in 3 games, outscored them, 13-6. So when you get that kind of work from the back end, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Some things, I think some points of emphasis too, things for them to work on after that, the Hartford game. I think we've talked about it. Their penalty box. I mean, their PK was 6 for 6, but I don't think that's something you say, yep, we'll get that next week too. So we've got to stay out of the penalty box there. I think Bolduc is really close to breaking out, but
Agreed.
He did take, I think, a retaliation, a bad penalty. I think he thinks I watching it, I think he thought maybe he got slashed or something like that. And then it was a retaliatory. Is that even a word?
Retaliatory? Yeah.
Retaliatory. There you go. A cross check. And it was at the point of the game where it's like, all right, Springfield, we had control of the game, but when you're facing the Wolfpack, you don't want to give them a little bit of hope. And so, that was a bad penalty by Bolduc. But the team bailed him out, and I think that's what it's all about. You're 6 for 6, killing penalties. I mean, that's great, but let's try not to get in the penalty box 6 times.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
no doubt. So, nice little win on Friday at Hartford. I will say, I looked this up too. And it's not exactly the perfect timing for it, but I have terrible ADD. I actually did the work today. It played 8 games. In games where they've outshot the opponent, they're 2-0. In games where they've been outshot, they're 2-4. So shots, they're not the end all be all, but we talked about them getting just blitzed in the second periods of some of these games, getting blitzed in the third period shot wise in some of these games. And I noticed, particularly this weekend, a lot more shooting. There was a lot less make the extra pass or find the perfect play, and more just fired on the net, crash the cage, see what happens. And I noticed that a lot on Domingue, and in the second game against Mike DiPietro in Providence. I just noticed so many fired shots at the net, and I think that worked out really well.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you can't score if you don't shoot. And I've always felt like it doesn't always have to be, we're playing in the AHL. And so you can expect to have a few rebounds, but you can't knock those rebounds in if you're not taking that initial shot to begin with. So not every shot necessarily, has to be taken with, it's got to be a goal or it was a bad shot. Good things can happen if you're shooting the puck. And I agree with you. I definitely sensed a greater sense of urgency just to put the puck on net with a little bit more zing to it.
Yeah, and I called the Sean Thornton effect, and Sean Thornton, longtime Bruin, and he did a lot of things, but something nobody ever talks about was that when he got into the offensive zone, he would shoot low to the far post. Every time. He never passed. Shoot low to the far post and chase. And if he had somebody flying up the wing that could get a rebound or at least keep puck possession, the last thing he wanted to do was turn the puck over near the offensive blue line. So he'd fire it to the far post. What's the worst thing that happens? The goalie saves it. And you get an offensive zone, and now the first line can come back out and have an offensive zone face off. What's the worst that happens? So, a lot more shooting, and we are going to get into rebounds here when we get to the Providence game, the second game of the weekend. But before we do, I just want to one more time mention our friends at White Lion Brewing and their new location in Amherst on North Pleasant Street, of course, right in downtown Springfield at Tower Square at 1500 Main Street. The place to go prior to Springfield Thunderbirds games. And parking, as we know these days, is a bit tricky in downtown Springfield. So make sure you park in the Tower Square garage, then swing into White Lion, show them your T-Birds ticket, and they'll validate your parking for you. While you're there, grab some Boomer Nachos, some Seuss mac and cheese, some of the other fantastic things that they have on the menu, along with any of their 20-plus beers that they have. And don't forget, you can find a lot of those White Lion beers right in your local liquor store cooler. White Lion Brewing, now in Amherst and in downtown Springfield, a proud local supporter of the SRG podcast. And if you do go, make sure you tell them that the guys from SRG sent you. The one home game of the weekend, and don't let me forget to talk about my growing frustration with these 3-3 weekends.
Mhm.
We'll do that at some point, but a big 5-2 win against Providence, a massive first period. It just seemed like from the minute the puck dropped, they came out like gangbusters, and they just left Providence chasing the entire night. It was awesome.
Yeah, clearly riding the high of that big win in Hartford, returning back home. Thunderdome was loud. Thunderdome was, supporting, and I think our guys feed off that. And it was evident, like you said. I think from the opening puck drop, um, they were a better team. I think I wonder if there was a sense of, even though going back a few weeks, I think it was game 2, even though Thunderbirds got the win over Providence, there was a sense of, we got outplayed. They clearly got outplayed in the second period, and they were lucky to still be in that game. So maybe there was a sense of, hey, let's keep this winning streak going here, and let's prove that we are a better team, and we didn't just get lucky in that first win. They came out with a purpose.
And I go back. I think it was the Lehigh Valley game. Lehigh Valley got called for too many men penalties, and the Thunderbirds weren't able to capitalize on it. And when you look at this game, 8 minutes in, power play goal, Gaudette, Walker, Pekka. Another penalty to Springfield or to Providence. 4 minutes later, power play goal, McEachern, Abramov, McGing. 25 seconds later, goal, Walker, Pekka. So it was like if you went to get a plate of nachos, you came back, you missed 3 goals. But they end the night with 4 power play goals. And I'm sorry, 3 of them. One of them was I'm just looking at the box score. One of those was a Providence goal. But that's sort of what you're looking for with your power play. Make other teams fearful of your special teams, and that I thought was just so evident in that game. Not only did they score on the power play, it just looked good. Sometimes your power play just doesn't look good at any level of any team, and it looked good in that game. So that's something that was great. It was good to watch.
We did know, and we've talked about this too, right? With Subban, I think he puts himself in great positions to make that initial stop. He does. He's got great positioning. He seems to be in the right spot. He's not getting beat on that first shot, but it is that rebound. And I noticed that too last weekend, and it even created some confusion and looked like some stress on the Thunderbirds back line, because not only are they needing to, move up the slot, protecting the blue line, but now they've got to crash the net to get that
clear
rebound.
The crease, yeah.
Right. And that was still concerning a little bit Saturday against Providence.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. And it's funny because I'm watching it, and I'm actually at this point counting rebounds. I'm like, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. And then the period ends, and I go, I go with all the off ice guys, and we just like hang out at intermission. And the guy who's the goal light judge, he comes over, and he was just sitting behind Subban, with working the goal light. And he's like, man, this kid's positioning is so good. He's playing out of his mind. I've never seen him play this well. And I'm looking at it literally on the other side of the goal, thinking, yeah, but what about all the rebounds? And so, is maybe that's why he's at this level and not. I mean, to me, the biggest difference between the AHL and the NHL are passing, speed, and goalies giving up rebounds. And I mean, even there was one that Subban had that hit him in the chest, and then it falls in front of him, and then he puts his glove down on it to ice the puck, and it's like, that puck shouldn't come out of your chest. You take one right in the logo, and you curl up, and the puck stays there, and then you get it shouldn't ever land back on the ice. And so, we'll monitor it as the season goes on. It's still early. Maybe it'll just take him a little bit of time, but you're right. When his positioning is that good, and a lot of them were like, I mean, he made a shoulder save that was just ridiculous. It just, he was sort of to his left side, and he moves to the right and catches it with the shoulder, and the puck goes, sky high in the air. But those ones that, what you don't want are your legs pads being a trampoline.
Yeah.
And there was a
that's fair.
little bit of that in that game, and I don't know how many second chance shots Providence had, but I'll bet that number was pretty high. So definitely something we should keep our eye on. But I think as we talked about early before the season even started, goaltending is definitely sort of gotten this team to its 500 record that they're at right now.
I mean, like I said, half a month in, goaltending, in my opinion, is their strength. Their early wins came off of games that, had they lost, you would have been like, well, yeah, they got outshot 20-3 in the second period. Yeah, that's going to happen. So goaltending, in my opinion, has been their strength. I do, from my vantage point, in the games where I was at the Thunderdome, sitting there in section 1, I mean, Subban, his positioning is there. He kind of eats up that goal, and a little bit of daylight here and there over his shoulders, but the positioning is there.
Yeah.
But it is that sort of, and like I said, that watching games on AHL TV, you almost sense of like it gets stressful around the crease for the Kessels to try to clear. Maybe that's just my own stress that I'm feeling. Waiting for him to clear the crease, and I'm like, just cover it up. But overall, I mean, a great team win. Other than, I think they have 2 misses of the empty net in that. Was it that Saturday game? I think.
Yeah, but they did
Right?
they did end up getting one.
They ended up
goal,
getting one, which was, I think, great. I think that was the Walker play I was talking about earlier, where he kind of dove to knock it out of their defensive zone into the neutral zone, and I think that was that McEachran's goal.
No, that was Gaudette who he had 2 that game. So the last one was it was an empty netter power play.
The
so
empty, that's right. Yes.
They were 5-on-5, but on the power play.
On the power play, right?
And you're right, Walker set him up beautifully, and he just hammered it home. And
a great hustle play, and I think getting those first 2 wins of the weekend just sets you up to play with house money on Sunday, and which they did.
And I don't know if I should. You know what, I will. So I don't know if anybody else caught that Providence game. I quite honestly thought it was a tough watch, and the only one that I blame for this is the league. These, we talked to Tommy Cross, and I remember him saying, whenever I played in Springfield, it was on a Saturday night. We played the night before, and my legs were heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having to play again on Sunday with travel.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the product really tough to watch when they are as exhausted as these guys are by Sunday. And I don't blame them for it, but to have 3 consecutive 3-3 weekends, these guys, I don't think the body is designed to handle that. And you're going to see injuries, you're going to see exhaustion, you're going to see things that would just be fixed if they would just break that up a little bit. And look, I love a Sunday game as much as anybody, especially having young kids. Like, my kids aren't coming to a 7:00 Wednesday night game on a school night. Having said that, there's only 5 Sunday 3:00 games for the T-Birds this season. 5. That's not a lot. And I don't know, I know it's all about money, and I don't know what the attendance is on a Sunday compared to a Wednesday. And I don't mean just in Springfield. I mean in general, across the league.
Sure.
I think that it makes it hurts the product. And now you're trying to figure out how to line up your goalies and who's going to be scratched and who's going to play. And you want to give guys rest, and you want to make sure guys, if we're prepping these guys for the NHL doesn't do that.
Right. Well, yeah.
The NHL doesn't do this. And so, and now this year I'm seeing out of state, like out of region travel.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a 3-3, but you're Providence, Springfield, Hartford, or you're Springfield, Hartford, Bridgeport, right? Like that's condensed. When you're playing 2 games at home and then you're going out to Pennsylvania, like.
Well, how about this? I mean, to do it one step further, if we look at where the Thunderbirds at, their next 6 games are the 6 game slots. So they go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And those are the only nights that the AHL really plays. They have their Wednesday night games and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on with the Thunderbirds in their upcoming games, but they basically play 6 games in a row on their 6 game nights. They don't have, and that's, I guess, I've never really looked at the schedule and dissected it. I'm sure every team has a stretch like that. And if you ask me if you had to do a stretch like this, would you rather do it in the early season? Probably, but
Yeah.
then maybe not, because I'm not seasoned yet. I don't have my legs under me yet. I'm not fully in mid-season form yet, and yeah, there are bumps and bruises that every team faces, but you are right. It's a tough stretch, and it probably does hurt the product, because
But
now you are reaching for those, ECHL guys. Not I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, but now you are calling up those guys who really maybe developmentally aren't even ready for the AHL. But
right.
boom, here you go. So it puts teams in a tough spot. That's fair.
Yeah. And early in the season, that's when you're most vulnerable for not even just dehydration, but that's when you get pulled muscles. That's when you pull
Yeah.
hammies.
Yeah.
That's when that's when you get those kind of non-contact injuries, just because, like you said, your legs aren't under you yet. So I don't mean to rant and rave about it. I just, it frustrates me for the product, and just trying to slam so many games into a weekend. Can we do a Saturday, Sunday, and Fridays off?
Hmm.
Like, would that kill the attendance numbers? Would that kill the league to just try to spread that out? Go Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that.
Yeah.
Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever you want to do. I think Thursday's a better hockey night of the weekdays than Wednesday is, but
Yeah.
I guess that's personal preference. But anyway, so one of the things that we did see because of all this that's going on, and it's something that you fans have been reaching out to us about.
Yeah.
And I pull it up here. Well, I had it pulled up. Okay. We had a post on our Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast Facebook page, which you guys can check out. Any like or follow, we appreciate. Um, Comments: why are we not seeing Sam Bitten during home games? As mentioned above, why are we seeing so little of Sam Bitten? I have the exact same question. Why aren't we seeing Sam Bitten? Sam Bitten, Sam Bitten, Sam Bitten. Sunday, Sam Bitten finally gets in the lineup. He
For a
beats the
little bit.
bag out of somebody in a fight. And this is the longest stretch I think I've seen of there not being a fight in a home game.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking to myself, well, who's going to eat? Is Hunter Skinner? And it's Bitten. I think Sam Bitten's here, to add that extra element. And we have yet to see him in a home game. And I think the fans, hey, people love fights, man. People love fights. I think the
Yeah.
fans are itching to see not only a fight, but they want to see Sam Bitten in the lineup.
Yeah, he's definitely become a bit of a fan favorite, and hasn't really played that much. I'll say this, fans, thank you for listening. Continue the likes and shares, and we love all of the comments and back and forth. But I will respectfully disagree with you on this one, and here's why. I think we've talked about, up until this weekend, we needed offense. We need offense. We need goals. We need to find the chemistry. I would just pump the brakes a little bit. We don't need. I love a fight too. I do, and it pumps energy into your stadium. It pumps energy into the locker room. It pumps energy onto the ice, 100%. But so do goals. And when I think currently, I think you're a Thunderbirds team who was struggling outside of that top line to score a goal, to get a point, to get an assist. And mixing the lineups too much just to get a fight or two in there, I think would have been the wrong move. So, to answer some of your questions, I think that's why. Why it hasn't happened at home? Well, we haven't had a third game of a 3-3 at home yet either.
It's true. Interesting.
2 weeks ago, it was game one. Was the first game against the Phantoms was your home game. This weekend, it was your middle game against Providence. And it kind of does make sense to put your enforcer, your fighter, in that second game. So he did play the second game of 2 against the Phantoms. He did play the second game of 2 against Providence. And, does that set the tone to say, we're watching, to the opponents, we're watching what you're doing in game 1. And then if we need to come back and we need to enforce something, we'll do it in game 2. We're here to win game 1, and we want to score goals. And that's not to say, I mean, that no disrespect to Sam at all. I don't want to catch his right hand, but
No.
so I think that's why. I think give
Yeah.
it time. I think you'll see him. He is absolutely a fan favorite. I mean, I can just imagine. Can you imagine what warm-ups would sound like that first time Sam Bitten comes out, wearing the home jersey? I mean, people love him. So, and understandably so. I just think give it time. And I think, currently right now, we're still trying to figure out how we score goals. Would they score 13 goals this weekend? Prior to this weekend, they had 10 total.
Yeah,
So
right.
we needed to find a way to score goals. We needed to find the right chemistry to put some offense on the scoreboard. And then the fighting and that fun stuff will come.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I just don't know who you take out of the lineup. I mean, I
True.
know his brother's out, but Drew Callen's been here a lot longer and is I don't think he's a world beater, but I think that when you're talking about a fourth liner that can go in there and mix it up, you go with Drew Callen and you go with Kean Washcruck.
Yep.
So I fully get your point, and I think that's a good one. Something I hadn't thought about. My other thinking too is sometimes it doesn't take a fight. And, I go back to a guy like Bobby Farnham, and Bobby Farnham loved to fight, but Bobby Farnham also loved big, massive, loud hits. And I mean, I've seen Bobby Farnham get penalties for loud hits. Like he didn't even really hit the guy hard, but he would smash into the glass and the glass would shake and rattle and the crowd would go nuts. And there really wasn't even a lot of contact. It was just loud. And so, Riley Stillman loved to just lay guys out, and he didn't fight a lot, but those hits that he laid would get the crowd and the bench going bananas. And so sometimes it's not even the fight as it is just physical play in general. And so if Sam, put the fighting aside, if he can go in there and just mash people in the boards, that's going to go a long way too. And I'm hoping we see more of that from guys like Wyatt Kalynuk and Hunter Skinner, and especially on that back end, they got some guys that can really bang if they want to. And I don't know if that's Leo Loof, but Callie Rosen, you get a guy at the blue line with his head down, and you can send him into next week. Like that's what the fans love. You get a guy, coming down, going behind the net, and you can just mash him real good, and again loudly.
Yep.
That's going to get the crowd going just as much as a fight. So,
Agreed.
I love a good scrap, certainly, but I do think that there are other ways to get it going than the fighting. I would just like to personally, I'm curious what Sam Bitten's game looks like. Like I feel him pegged as this guy who just punches people in the face, but I feel like there's more to his game than that, and I haven't really gotten a chance to see it yet.
I'm with you. I would like to see the kid play, and he'll get his turn. He'll get his time to shine. I think. I do quickly just want to say, and this was watching the game Sunday. This epitomizes, in my opinion, Springfield, right? And the grit. I think I talked about this at the beginning of the show. You're down 1-0 going into the third. After your second 3-3, right? We know, guys, we know you got tired legs. We know it. And you could have just said, all right, well, we've got our 2 wins, which is what you would want out of a 3-3. You score a goal quick in the third. Providence returns it quickly. Now you're down 2-1, and you get that late tie, 2-2. To me, it was just, this was a Springfield win, and it was great to see after a 3-3. And again, it was refreshing. I want Adam Gaudette to score a goal every game, but it was nice to see, we won, and you didn't need Adam Gaudette to score 2 goals to do it. So, I think Coughlin with the game winner, like you said, he was back on Saturday, but not in the lineup. It was good to see him playing, and I think it was good to see him score that game-winning goal. Do you enjoy, this is a little, do you enjoy 3-on-3? Watching that?
No, I think I'm more of a fan of the 4-on-4.
Yeah.
I just think the 4-on-4, there's more room to, it's weird saying I think there's more opportunity to be creative. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing how many times you watch a game and they'll carry the puck into the zone and realize, well, there's nobody to pass to. So they end up pulling the puck back out of the offensive zone so that
Mhm.
everything can reset again. And it's like, well, what do we like? I understand why they're doing it. But no, I'm a much bigger fan of 4-on-4 than 3-on-3. I just think 3-on-3 is a way to make guys super tired.
Yeah, it's almost, it's like not quite hockey. Mikhail Abramov actually did exactly what you were talking about right before the game-winning goal. Actually, I think he was there. He took it out of the zone. He kind of reset. He did it twice, and then made the move, made the push, and got the puck to Coughlin. I don't know. I feel like it's almost not quite hockey. It's kind of like you're just going back and forth, a one-on-one.
It's like a slam dunk contest.
It kind of is, and it's like, all right, loser take out. You know what? We made a save. Right now, your turn. You take it up into it. There's 3-on. There's not. I don't know. I'm with you. I think a 4-on-4 would be more enjoyable. Like you'd see more hockey plays.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's stressful.
More back and forth. Like I feel like if you win the faceoff, we've seen this before at all levels. You win the faceoff on a 3-on-3, and the other team doesn't touch the puck for 2.5 minutes, and it's like, well, they should be better enough to go take the puck. It's like, I guess so, but like, what are we doing here? Like at the same time, if you could just kind of hang out at your own blue line holding the puck, especially if you're really good in the shootout, like all you gotta do is get the puck, hang on to it, dilly around with it for 5 minutes, and then go to the shootout. I don't find it nearly as competitive as the 4-on-4 is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And real quick, I don't even think I noticed it. Again, I'm just kind of looking back on these things. Did Mikhail Abramov have a 4-point weekend? I know he had. Pretty sure he had one on Friday. It looks like he had two.
He had two
Sunday, and then one on Saturday. So
yeah,
we talk about these guys that need to step up. Mikhail Abramov had himself a nice little weekend. So sorry, my ADD kicking back in there, but you gotta like that from that guy. So again, I thought he had a good weekend. Hugh McGing, Mackenzie McEachern, Kean Washcrook, all those goals that top line is scoring. And yet I just, to recap what we said at the top of the show, I've been very impressed with the bottom three lines this past week.
I think they might not be the point getters, but they definitely, especially Hugh McGing, that double McLaughlin line is in my opinion that sort of that fuel that's really firing this team up. I think it's not like, and the team recognizes it too, with Washcrook getting that player of the game. It's just their hustle. They're knocking the pucks into the neutral zone. They're blocking shots, and I think those are the little things that go a long way in a locker room.
Yeah. So as we look ahead to this weekend, you guessed it, another 3-3. Luckily, there's not nearly as much travel. Friday night, home against Belleville, the MGM Springfield Deuces Wild Friday. So you can get your $2 Coors Light drafts, $2 hot dogs, $2 sodas from starting at 6 o'clock to the end of the first period. On Saturday, Tommy Cross bobblehead night presented by Stop and Shop. He'll be in the building. I assume he'll drop the first puck. By the way, let me interrupt myself again with my ADD. Congratulations to Paul Thompson on his retirement. It was very cool to have Paul back in the building. He dropped the ceremonial puck drop on Saturday, which was great. If anybody's ever met Paul, he's a really cool dude. His kids are playing hockey locally. In fact, his wife, again, went to Quinnipiac, was a grade above me at Quinnipiac. So tip of the hat to Paul Thompson. Every week I feel bad we haven't mentioned him in his retirement. So tip of the hat to that guy. But the Tommy Cross bobblehead night on Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Sunday, they go to Bridgeport. So not that much of a, they get to sleep in their own beds, before they hop on the bus and head out to Bridgeport. And all those games, if you can't make it or you don't want to pay the way too much money for AHL TV based on the content that you're given, which is another issue I have, you can hear the games with Ryan Smith on News Radio 560 WHYN and on the iHeartRadio app. I do. It's for a whole other episode, but for what I'm paying for AHL TV, I need a better product. I can't pause. I can't rewind. I can't fast forward. It's clunky. It's I need something better than that for what I'm paying. But anyway, let's not go down that road. Anything that you're looking forward to this week, Matt? Anything that you want to see this weekend that you're going to be kind of focusing on as you check out some of these games?
I will be in the house Saturday, November 4th. I will be in the Thunderdome there. I'm looking to see what I'm expecting to be a nice sellout crowd, bring the energy. This is for this 3-3 in whole. I think it's the first time you're seeing Belleville. It's the first time you're seeing Bridgeport this year. So I would anticipate a little feeling out period. But I think these are games you kind of have to win. I think these are the games that will kind of separate you in the standings. I want to see what the coaching staff decides to do with the goalies. If does one, they really have been just going one after another, just alternating starts. I'd like to see a little continuity in there and maybe see Zarenko or Subban. Quite frankly, I think they both have played well. But see one of them start to pull ahead as this is your one goalie. Identify who that's going to be. I'd like to see that, and I want to see if now these Zacks can break out. One of the, I think Bolduc is soon to break out. So let's see if it's that this weekend. Those are the kind of the things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I just think the time's going to come when this first line is going to have a night where they're not as good as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see if this team can say, okay, that's fine. We got it. And whether that's the second line, third line, whether the defense steps up and scores a couple goals. I think Coughlin's might be the first and only goal scored by a defenseman so far this season. So, maybe the defense gets themselves involved a little bit more in the offense. But I think, like you said, I think the Zacks are getting better every game. I think Zach Dean was a lot more noticeable this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to seeing that. And I'd like to see them have more second periods where they don't get outshot by 6, 8, 10 shots. I'd like to see them possess the puck and hold the puck and shoot the puck and dominate a second period rather than looking at it going, even Saturday, we're like, all right, well, they're winning, but they're going into the second period. So let's cross our fingers here.
Yeah, right.
Let's hope we can sort of avoid that. So we have a lot to look forward to this weekend. And again, if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you, first of all, let us know. We love the feedback.
Yeah.
You mentioned something to us on social media. We'll definitely bring it up in our show. If you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or Spotify or wherever you're listening, that's greatly appreciated. Tell your friends about the stuff we're doing here. And I guess I'm going to have to make sure you said Saturday night. I'll have to get Jake's name up there on the birthday list. Make sure that
it should it should already be there.
We already made the call. Okay.
We've already made the call, but if you don't mind double checking and just making sure, but it should be up there. Yeah.
All right. As long as my guy gets stuff.
Yeah.
Jake. So thanks everybody for listening. And again, a big thank you to our friends at White Lion Brewing. Check out their new location in Amherst and in Tower Square in downtown Springfield. Happy to have them as a local partner right here in the 413. That'll do it for episode number 8.
Let's go T-Birds.